Welcome to the Network Build Grow podcast, the show where business owners, entrepreneurs, and professionals share their stories, lessons learned, and powerful strategies for building relationships and growing their circle of influence. With Melissa Taylor, your host, each week we'll bring you actionable insights to help you build a better network and a better business. Let's dive in.
Well, hello.
Hello.
We are saying good morning to Mr. John Sanchez today. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good. I was trying to remember how many years ago we met. Should we age ourselves?
That's a good question.
I
My
know.
guess is at least 3, maybe 4.
I think it's been more than that because I think it was pre-COVID or during COVID. So that'd be 5 because now it's 2025.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So
Gosh,
I think
goes
it's been a
fast.
while. I know it goes so fast and you've had a lot of things going on in your life.
Excuse me.
And of course, yes, we want to know more about all the things. So tell us a little bit about your business first.
Well, my business mainly, so I'm managing partner of FPA Group, which used to be a technical financial planning and analysis consulting company. It has turned into a training company, and I always describe it as I kind of got into training through the back door. Someone just asked me to speak at a conference. Hey, can you teach this 1 hour class? And I did it. It went well, and I kind of got bitten by that bug of working with people.
Mm-hmm.
And my previous life doing consulting in that area was mostly sitting in spreadsheets all day.
Mm-hmm.
So my main focus is helping finance professionals get their career on the fast track by turning their communication skills into an unfair advantage.
Oh, I love that. Now, you say something that I think is always humorous. You say that you are, a recovering accountant or something?
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's really fun, but it's the communication skills that I think really set you apart and gave you these opportunities. Is that correct? You've talked to me about that before. Lots of people in finance and accounting don't have those skills.
Yep. I think it's the irony is I used to think that I had really good communication skills because I always consider myself a people person.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up an Army brat. We moved like all the time. So I somehow just developed the ability to make friends quickly. So that made me think that I had good people skills.
Right.
And then I realized that one of my jobs that I was alienating other people because the main reason was I was so stressed out about the work that I was doing. I kind of had blinders on. So people would say hi to me and I wouldn't acknowledge them. Like I didn't even realize that they were there because I was just so focused on whatever I was working on. And when somebody brought that to my attention, it really made me think, oh my God, I'm that guy. Like I hate people like that. And I'm that guy. And so it kind of led me into personal development and just working on my communication skills. And then once I got into that training, I realized I should not be teaching people Excel stuff. There's 1,000,001 experts out there on Excel and financial modeling. Nobody is talking to finance people about communication skills. And I speak their language. I'm in the club, so to speak. I'm one of them. So it gave me credibility to get people to listen to that message of communication skills. And it's kind of exploded. So back in, I think it was 2013, the first really big conference that I spoke at, like a room of, 400 people, whatever it was. There was like 8,000 people at the conference. In my one room, there were hundreds of people. And I literally had to sell the conference people on me talking about communication skills. They kept trying to get me to talk about technical stuff. I finally did. And the session was like standing room only. And it got great reviews. And I just last month spoke at that same conference for the 14th year in a row.
Wow.
So I always use as an example that I was that guy, right, who was so kind of unaware of his poor communication skills. And now I get paid to talk to people and teach communication skills. I still have a ton of work to do, but they're all learnable skills. And that's something I think people miss with communication. They think it's like, well, I'm just not good at that. You just haven't practiced. You haven't, made it a point to work on that skill.
Yeah, because I don't think we're good at anything kind of inherently. Like we
Oh,
might be
yep.
more prone to be good at some things, but we still have to work at it to become more, I don't know, able to really excel at those things.
Mhm.
So that's a great way to put it. That's a great way to put it. Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I know that you do speak a lot. You actually have your own podcast. You still do some training and consulting as well, but you really are focused on the communication piece.
Yes.
Yes. So let's talk about communication because that's what networking is. Like that's 100% what networking is.
Yep.
So give me an idea of when did you start using networking in your career? And then when did you start using networking as this new business model in this new business model?
I guess I started using it in my career when I realized that it was a non-negotiable. So I started working for myself when I got laid off. I was working at AutoNation and they shut down the whole business unit that I worked in. So 400 and some people, myself included, got laid off. And a week or two later, the controller called me and said, "Hey, I've got a project I think you might be good for." They hired me as a contractor. So I worked for them for quite a while as a contractor. And life was good. I was making good money as a contractor, more than I was making as an employee. I was working from home, and this was like in 96, 97. And I
Mm.
was able to work from home. And I basically would just show up to a meeting once in a while. And I thought, this is awesome. I get to work for myself and I make good money. And then that project came to an end. And I was like, oh, wait a second. I'm like unemployed now. So I realized I need to go find new clients. Well, how do I do that? Well, I got to go talk to people. I have to learn how to network.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what sort of forced me to start it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what got me doing it in my current business,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that I kept going from, you've probably seen this a million times with other people. I'm on a job where I'm billable and I'm making money.
Mm-hmm.
So I stopped networking.
Yeah.
And it's like this endless cycle of slowing down or stopping networking because I'm so busy with something where I'm actually generating revenue. And then every time that happens, it's like you're restarting that whole networking process
Yep.
because it's all about relationships. And if you and I haven't talked for years, it's like we have to start almost, not quite, but almost from scratch all over again and build that trust and that relationship. And
Mm-hmm.
it
And
takes
who
time.
knows what's happened during those 2 years? During those 2
Yeah.
years, they could have met somebody else that does what you do, and now you're out in the cold. Whereas if you had stayed in touch with them, maybe you would have gotten that position, that job.
I got a perfect example of that. Someone that I met actually through Network Build Grow
Mhm.
is now working in a position where they hire contract trainers like me. But I lost touch with them because I wasn't networking as much as I should. So now if I reach out to them, it's going to feel like a sales call, like I want
Mhm.
something from them. If I
Right.
had continued my networking like I had before and stayed in touch and we had a friendship, they would probably reach out to me and go, "Hey, I know you're a trainer. Let's talk. Maybe, we can work together." But I dropped the ball on it.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think that's a huge difference.
Yeah, and it's so funny. So I hear people say both these things that you just talked about. One, the feast and famine cycle of when you
Mhm.
stop doing marketing or you stop doing networking when you're busy, you've got client work to do. So that's we hear the feast and famine cycle a lot. And then the second thing what we hear is you said that you dropped the ball. And so many people actually put that on the other person. Well, so did they.
Mhm.
I'm like, you know what? It's not their
Mhm.
responsibility.
Communication, this is one of the key things about communication that I think people miss sometimes. If you're the one sending the communication, sending a message, it's on you. It's your job to make sure that they received it and they received it like it was intended.
Mm,
It's the whole thing with active listening is to make sure that you get feedback and you confirm that you're both on the same page. They
mhm.
might have heard the words that I said, but missed the emotion behind it that will tell you what piece of this is important to me and why. And
Right.
when it comes to networking, one of the things that it took me a while to learn, I learned this from a sales trainer, is this whole thing of giving out business cards like you're dealing out a deck of cards, like you're playing poker or something. It's a complete waste of time.
Oh, yeah.
You have to control the point of contact. Giving out your business card means nothing. If that other person doesn't follow up, you're just out of luck.
Yeah. And then you play the blame game. Well, they didn't follow up with me. Well, it's not really their responsibility to do that. It's your responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
It's always falls back on the person. So tell me, when you started doing more networking for those relationship building things for your current business, what were some of the kind of criteria that you were looking for in the events that you would go to, or the types of places that you would go be a part of?
Making sure that there were people at those events that were potential customers.
Okay.
So when I first moved to Charlotte, I moved here in 2007. I didn't know a soul. So I just kind of did like a shotgun approach. Like, I don't know which one of these networking groups is going to be good for me. So I'm just going to try anything and everything. I tried meetup groups and the big Charlotte chamber and some of the smaller chambers like Mint Hill and Matthews and Concord, all kinds of smaller groups. And little by little started to kind of just whittle down to see what are the ones that are sort of the demographic, if you will, of people who would be good clients. And that shifted over the years. So a lot of my networking now is done more on LinkedIn because the training clients that I do the most work for are like enterprise level big companies, Verizon, Oracle, Discover Card, Michelin Tires. Those people are most of them are not physically here in Charlotte. So I need to network virtually, and LinkedIn for me has been the best way to do that.
Yeah, it's really important that people understand that, because those people, even if you were in the same city, they're not at the chamber event. They're not going to the coffee. They're not going to the breakfast. They're not going to the ribbon cutting of another small business in town. So you do need to know where those people are, or where the people are gathered that have connection to those people. So that's the other thing. You know, you may be in a room full of fractional C-suite executives. That might be a good room for you to be in, because they have connections to those people.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about LinkedIn networking, because we haven't really explored that a lot on the show. Tell me what your go-to is on networking through LinkedIn. What's your process?
So there's a couple of things. It's changed in the last year because, so my first approach was to just kind of post content on there and try to get people to engage with it, try to get people into conversations just based on my posts. And I kind of stumbled across a couple of people who they refer to themselves as finance creators. So they create like training courses. They do a little bit of what I do, live training, but mostly they're more like digital products, online courses. And through meeting a few of those people, I ended up being invited into a Slack group that was just finance creators. And so that kind of leveled it up, because once I started connecting with people, like one of the people in the group has over 1 million LinkedIn followers. Several of them have hundreds of thousands of LinkedIn followers. And so once I met those people, I started sort of just mirroring what they were doing. So I would look at their posts. I would look at where they said they were getting leads and generating revenue. And I said, well, if it worked for them, let me try it, right? Success leaves clues. Let me just model what they're doing. And it's been working to the extent that I've worked that. Just like with face-to-face networking, every time I let myself get away from putting the time and effort into that, I see the same thing that happens in face-to-face networking. You kind of have to start over again, because people want to see consistency.
Yes.
It's like a billboard. If they see the billboard once and they never see it again, probably not going to call you. It's that, hey, that guy's still here. He's still in business. He's still doing that same service. Those billboards are expensive. If he's continuing to have that billboard, he must be doing pretty well. People must like him. Maybe I'll call him. It's the same thing on LinkedIn, but your billboard is your posts and your engagement talking to people.
Yeah, that reminds me, like when you drive to the beach or you drive somewhere and you see like a billboard for Buc-ee's or a billboard for something, and it's like every It feels like every 2 miles you see another one. It's almost here. It's almost here. Come get this. Come get this. Next exit. Next exit. But
The
it's the
first
same
one,
concept.
I comment on this every time we
Yeah.
go down to Charleston. The first Buc-ee sign is like, Buc-ee's in 320 miles. I'm like,
Right.
320 miles? Really?
Right.
You're really trying to get my attention 320 miles away? Yes.
Yes. And they did. You remembered it.
Yep.
And it builds excitement. And I think the same concept that you're saying with LinkedIn or Facebook, if that's where somebody's audience is, it's building excitement. It's building awareness so
Yes.
that then when they get 320 miles down the road and they do need you, they know which exit to take. If you network for your business, you already know follow-up is everything when it comes to growing relationships and driving success. But here's the thing. Most of us want to follow up well. We just get stuck. Staying consistent, keeping it personal, making it stand out, it's hard. That's why I use NetEffect.io. It makes follow-up simple, cuts through all the noise, and helps me stay on top of every relationship without dropping the ball. I never miss a follow-up, and honestly, my network wouldn't be the same without it. So check it out, neteffect.io. And right now, you can use promo code NBG50 for 50% off of your first month. neteffect.io, your secret weapon to unforgettable follow-up. So how do you feel about what I call spray and pray in the LinkedIn, direct messaging with all the AI bots that are taking over the world? And how do you combat that?
First of all, I think it's a nightmare. I get it constantly.
Me too.
Right? They see my title, managing director. I'm the owner of a small business. Most people think I have some giant team. It's just me. I'm one guy. But I get these inbound, they're just sales pitches.
Mm-hmm.
And they're most irritating because they're poorly done. I actually respond when somebody sends me a message and they're trying to sell me something. If it's really well done, even if I don't need that product, I will comment back to them about how well done it is and why I think it's well done, because it's so
That's
few and
nice.
far between.
That's very nice of you.
Well, I look at it like I'm in sales because I have my own business. I have to hunt and kill and clean and eat. I have to do the whole thing. So I have an appreciation for how hard it is to be good at any of those things.
Right.
So that whole game recognizes game thing, I see it and I go, hey man, kudos to you. This is hard to do and you're doing it well. I just want to recognize that.
That's
and I do it.
nice.
I do it everywhere. I mean, I could see a server in a restaurant and I'll just be like, that person is just so good at what they do. I will literally watch them sometimes like in awe, like, because some people look at it like, well, they're just a server. They're just serving food. Yeah, but I don't care what it is you do. The people who are really good at it can do really well for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And in most things, there's just small number of skills that you have to master. But when you see someone that's so good at it, I don't know. Maybe it's just the way my brain is wired. I just look at them like, wow, that's impressive.
They're pursuing excellence no matter what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
which is really smart. Really smart.
Think about this. I don't know if you've ever heard of Joe's Stone Crab. It's a crab, mostly seafood restaurant on South Beach in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
They're only open for the season, right? The tourist season down there. And even when I was a kid, I remember hearing back in the 80s that waiters there used to make over $100,000 a year. And they only work for a few months.
Wow.
Now they're serving really expensive stuff, so they get bigger tips, right? But people will like kill to get that job. But to get that job, you can't get $100,000 a year server job just because you're attractive or you have a good resume. You have to be like a 1%er.
Yeah.
So I think it's stuff like that where I look at it and I go, hey, it doesn't matter what the job is. If you're really good at it, you can make a killing.
Yeah, that's a really good way to look at it. Okay, so back to the question about direct messaging. Do you use it for your online networking?
Not very much, no.
Not very much. Just
No.
once you have a relationship built, you might have a conversation.
Yeah, I will. The only direct messaging that I would do is if I send someone a connection request, I'll always put a note
Mhm.
And I'll always make it a point to give them a reason why I want to connect, and a reason that's something in it for them, not necessarily for me.
Yeah.
Right. So
Mhm.
we have a connection in common, and we're both in the training industry. I thought it would be good to connect. If I can ever be a resource, let me know. Something along those lines.
Mhm. I love that line, "If I can ever be a resource, let me know." It's just opening up what I call your sandbox for other people to come play in your sandbox with you like we did when we were
Mhm.
kids, right? We didn't hoard all the toys. Well, some of us maybe did, but but, but we can all play in the same sandbox.
I think you've used this phrase before, and I try to remind myself all the time to try to leave people with some form of how can I help?
Yeah.
Either somewhere in the conversation. If it's not those exact words, something that lets them know I'm here to help. I don't know if I can help you, but if I can,
Mhm.
let me know.
Yeah. That's a wonderful way to do that. So we're going to do some rapid fire questions now. You ready? First thing that pops into your mind.
Okay.
Here we go. Okay, what is a common mistake that you think people make when they're networking besides just handing their cards out like a poker table?
The classic biggest barrier to active listening, which is they're in a conversation and they're really just kind of waiting for their turn to talk. They're not really paying attention.
Mhm.
So you're talking, and all my brain is thinking about, okay, when she stops talking, I'm going to say this, or I'm going to ask it. And your brain can't do both at the same time. I can't really, really listen to you when I'm thinking about something else. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, and then it becomes just swapping monologues instead of having a dialogue,
Hmm.
which is not a good way to start a relationship or to continue a relationship.
Agree.
All right, so what is the number one, since you're a communications guy, give us a couple of or your number one tip for how to start a conversation at a networking event without having to say, "So, what do you do?"
Um, so this is something that I've got from several other people. I always like to give credit where credit is due. Chris Voss is one of them, where he talks about the big thing with communication. I think people miss a lot is they're not thinking about the emotional part of things. So if I ask someone, for example, what do you do? They're probably going to give me a very straightforward answer.
Mhm,
I'm an accountant. I'm a doctor. I'm whatever.
mhm.
There's no real investment of emotion or anything there. But if you ask them, I usually start with what do you do, but I would immediately follow that up with something along the lines of, what made you want to get into that? What made you want to become a doctor, whatever it is? And now you're starting to get a little bit at that person's why.
Mhm.
And when you get people talking about themselves and things that they're emotionally invested in, they're way more interested in the conversation.
And as a byproduct, more interested in you
Yep.
because yeah.
There's a great example. It was a video I was watching recently. It was Chris Voss, the negotiation expert, and it was a live training he was doing. And he had the people in the room do an exercise where they just met a new person and they were not allowed to ask a question. The only two things they were allowed to do is what he calls labeling and mirroring. So labeling is saying something, somebody says something, and you say something that starts with, it seems like, it sounds like, it feels like, right? So I ask you what you do for a living, and you say, well, I'm a doctor, and I'm a pediatrician. I work with kids. It sounds like you really like helping people, right? That's a label.
Mhm.
Or a mirror would be basically just repeating 1 to 3 words of the end of what they said. So they say something like, I work with kids. Oh, work with kids? With an upward intonation like it's a question. So you're not asking a question, but your tonality turns it into a question.
Yeah.
And both of those two things put it back in the other person's court, and it's getting them to say more, and you're going more into what's important to them, not just facts and figures. So I thought it was a really cool exercise.
That is a really cool exercise. I think that would be a fabulous exercise for people to do when they go out to networking events, because I can't tell you when I walk around how many times I hear, "So what do you do?" And then people don't really listen to the answer. and then they just start talking about themselves.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate.
Here's something too that I always try to emphasize this, because I think when people see, if you're a speaker and you're on a stage and you're giving people like models or frameworks to follow, I think people always expect you to be like this perfect example of it. So I will tell people all the time, because it's going to be obvious if I don't tell them. So it makes more sense for me to just say it, to call out the elephant in the room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not great at some of these things, and I do this for a living. So if you try it, like I give you a framework, like we talk about labeling and mirroring, and then we're going to do an exercise. If you feel uncomfortable or like you're not good at this, that's okay. Don't let it get you hung up. I still have to work hard on a lot of these things because I'm trying to be good at so many different things, and they all take reps.
Yeah.
That's the only way to get better, is just doing it more.
Doing it more.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's a wonderful way to end our conversation today. So thank you so much for being with us, John. I appreciate you. I appreciate your friendship, all that you do for me, and I look forward to seeing you soon.
I appreciate you too. Thanks for having me on.
Sure.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Network Build Grow podcast. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow entrepreneur or professional. And of course, if you're not yet part of our community, visit networkbuildgrow.com to connect with us. Until next time, keep building and keep growing.